so we've been working, this is our second or our first session of 10. We did a consult a couple years ago.
We did.
And tell me how that went for you. The first consult that we had.
Ooh, I went back to dieting.
Yeah, I mean, I presented this. Did I not? Maybe not as effectively, or not as, I don't know. Maybe not as
I probably wasn't ready either.
Yeah, now you see that, right? Like, it's too, you still believed that you could reach, right? That level of freedom and betterment through losing weight at the time. And you believed it was achievable.
Fantasy.
That's right. We talked about that in the consult that we just recently did. Again, that's a fantasy. You have been thin, right? You have been thin. You've made it.
I did, and then I gained it all back.
Well, you gain it all back because when you get there to that thinness, there's this fleeting sense of like success, right? And you have those fleeting moments of wearing clothes that validate that you've accomplished something that you've set out to accomplish. But in the end, it didn't really turn out the way that you fantasized it to turn out.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it was, don't you agree? The fantasy of what weight loss is going to do for you, that is in a vacuum.
Yes.
Right? Like the euphoria, like when you go back to how you used to feel about losing weight and about being thinner, the feelings were
so different.
Well, they're limiting the emotions of grandeur, right? That emotion of safety, success, that I'll feel good about myself, that I'm proving myself, that I'm going to do something. And by accomplishing that, I'm going to feel proud of who I am and proud that I could do it. And I feel that I know I can do it. And there's that idea that you can, people will see that accomplishment and give you praise or even just give you some sense of like worth. Right, that's that social connection we were just talking about.
Oh, you look so good.
Oh my God, how'd you do it? We're so proud of you, right? Mm-hmm. Damn girl, you're looking good. Mm-hmm. You must, it's like that you have this special power. There's this fantasy that that thinner people have these special happiness powers in life. And they, right? But that isn't taking into account that people who are thin and believe they have those powers, those people tend to have to do all of this work and management to keep it, right?
Oh, count calories. Be on this diet. Oh, if this isn't working, go on that diet.
Can you tell me what type of diets you've done? Can you give me a list?
I've done every diet you can think of. I have done the low-carb, which is the Atkins. I've done the vegan, the vegetarian, the no dairy, the no alcohol, the no wheat, the no fat one, so super high carb vegan. I've done the fruit diet. I've done the soup diet, the cabbage soup and the tomato soup. I've done...
have you done intermittent fasting?
Yeah, I've done intermittent fasting, and I ended up gaining.
Yeah, I'm binging, right?
Binging.
For sure on that. That one's predictable. Have you done like keto?
Yep. The fat flush. Oh, and then you feel terrible.
You've done the HCG protocol.
I've done that before I contacted you, after I contacted you, and I don't want to diet anymore.
Well, just recently you kind of came to the realization that this doesn't get better, right? Don't you agree that fantasy that you're chasing, that everybody's chasing, the fantasy is that it's gonna get better, that this is worth it, right? What did I say to you on the phone earlier? That there's this idea that the sacrifices that you're making with your diet, that all those limitations, that they're there for your own good. The limitations in food are there for your own good, because your own good is to be thinner, right? And that means that you're going to be healthier, happier, better, you're going to have a better life. There's all these feelings and emotions wrapped around the image of what being thinner will accomplish for you. And so because of that, these diets that are very, very abusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody listening to this, would you put your own child on a ketogenic diet?
Oh my gosh.
If you said yes, you need to get some help, right? But it's more likely because you have all these reasonings and rationalizations around why it's for their own good. That's how abuse is done all the time. Like, I'm going to kick the shit out of my child because they need to know not to do it again, right? I want to make sure they remember this. So we're going to be abusive in this moment because it's for their own good. There are massive consequences, right? Unintended consequences that, like, we were talking about having popcorn last night.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said there was an initial anxiety about it. Like, it felt like I was doing something wrong. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. And
Salt.
because of the salt and the carbs, and it's nighttime, right? And oh my God, your blood glucose is going to go higher, and you're going to be holding fluid, and you're going to get fatter, and you're going to be inflamed, and you're going to have all these issues, and you could die. You could have a heart attack. What about diabetes? What about Alzheimer's? All these things that they use to fearmonger you into believing this abusive way of living with food is for your own good, right? So you don't necessarily see that it's abusive, even though you can feel that it's abusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had come to me for this second consult, and you had said to me that you were debating between coming to me or continuing to work on your efforts to be thinner and healthier and fitter, and whatever that illusion or fantasy was, through an online personal trainer.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I was debating between the personal trainer that I follow on Instagram.
And I'm assuming this person is super successful, right?
Oh, super successful, nice body.
Tons of followers, lots of selfies.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me. Body image. I'm so happy. I can make you happy with my body.
With my training program and my workouts.
Did you ever meet or talk to that person?
I emailed them, and they emailed me back, and I never replied.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to consult with you again.
So far, after our consult, how do you feel?
Free.
You feel free. I want you to explain this to the listener who's sitting over there going, what the heck? How did this happen so quickly? And there are clients of mine who don't get it this quickly. There's a lot of baggage they're bringing to the table, and they're not ready when they come to me. And I know that, right? Because you had to acknowledge, like, a couple years ago, I wasn't ready. I wasn't willing to look at this reality that you bring to the table. This is a reality, right? When I say, in order for you to get freedom from this crap, you have to be okay in a body that does not match what's going to be praised.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's real.
Exactly.
That is not fantasy. That is not, I'm selling a fantasy and I'm going to give you what you need to chase it. Like a mirage.
We talked a lot about the mirage.
Do you see clearly now that what you're being sold is a mirage?
It is.
Because it's extremely emotionally oriented, right? That you can get this body, and what you're being sold is the emotions around the body, right? So when they show you the picture, they're selling, I feel better about myself. I feel happier. My life is better. My relationships are better. I feel confident in who I am. They're selling this emotional resolution, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
But what they're not including, and this is why I said that's in a vacuum, they're not including that you have to isolate yourself from reality. You had said to me that the other day you went to your parents' house and your mom fixed this wholesome meal that had everything you probably shouldn't be eating in it. And you sat down with your dad and, had a couple beers.
Mm-hmm.
You would never have done that before.
No,
right?
diet.
That's because it's for your own good. You shouldn't be drinking those beers with your dad. That's terrible, right? But in the sacrifice is kind of creating the disconnect with your father, right? Not to suggest that you need to be an alcoholic, because that's not what that is. It's just having a beer with your dad. It's a form of connection. It's like a human bonding moment. It's like sitting and having a glass of wine with a really good friend of mine, right? It's just there's a social component. And before, you couldn't have that relationship with your father, right?
So is dieting.
Totally. So when someone's painting you this picture, when that trainer paints the picture of here's my body and here's my routine and we can make it happen and we're going to guide, and you know it's going to come with this very strict diet regimen, right?
And I used to take my own food, my own prepared dinner over to my parents' house just in case they wanted me to stay for dinner and I couldn't eat what they were going to have. I'd bring my own food.
Isn't that just sad? Someone out there is going, that is so good. You need to be that determined. You need to want it that bad. You need to work hard for this. If you want it, you better package your stuff. If you go traveling, you need to have all these containers to make sure that you stay focused on the goal of that mirage that you're chasing, right? So think of all the work that goes into that and all the brain obsession around it. And it is obsessive, right? Think about how much work it takes to think, organize, look at all of the packaging on everything, to know what's in the packaging, understand it, pre-quantify, pre-measure, and to also try to organize it with your own dynamic life around when am I working out, how much am I working out, what am I going to be doing, and how am I supposed to, what am I going to do if I get hungry and I can't eat this much? I mean, just think about intermittent fasting and how terrible that is to your psyche, right?
What am I going to do?
Oh, crap. Oh, I get my free day. Oh, sweet. Binge, 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 binge. How do you reconcile all that emotionally, right? Anyways, I haven't even included the fact that you're doing body checking, measurements, focusing on how often you look in the mirror. You got to think about what you look like, how you're being perceived, how your clothes fit. Are they flattering? Do other people think you're flattering? How do you compare to other women in the room? Other women at the gym? How do they look? What are they doing? How are you doing it? Do you even compare? What's your heart rate? What's their heart rate? Are you burning the same amount of calories? Are you stronger and fitter than they are? I mean, it's intense, right? So this image or fantasy doesn't include all of this suffering, right? Because the suffering is for your own good.
And the anxiety.
Oh yeah, anxiety. Yeah, the anxiety, the panic. The irritability, right? If you feel fat, right? Like you said, if I feel chubby or fat, doesn't it come with this feeling of irritability, agitation? It's like you're itching on the inside of your skin, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then if you want something else beyond your diet, you should feel guilty and be ashamed because you're working so hard for this goal.
And you don't have willpower and you don't want it enough. How does that feel just talking about it?
I look back and think how crazy I was.
So I want you to tell the listener, what is it that got you this? This is our first session of 10 and you did it. What was it that made this real for you?
During our first 90-minute consult, you went through a table, basically a triangle, and we went through why I'm feeling the way I am, why I'm feeling the need to do all these diets and feel the way I feel, feel so guilty for weighing what I weigh.
And the shame around it and feeling inadequate. Yeah.
Anxiety.
Yeah, which is real, fight or flight. The feeling like I'm going to be rejected, abandoned, disapproved of. And even if you don't care about anybody else's feelings, you feel like you're a piece of shit, right? Like it's your standard you're failing. So it's your own judgment that you're feeling. Like, I can't even do this, right? Even though when you look at it in reality, what you're holding yourself to is extremely abusive and requires obsessive compulsive focus, right? So you're expecting yourself to be mentally ill because it's for your own good. So this obsessive compulsiveness is supposed to be worshipped and honored. as what it takes to reach the pearly gates of thin supremacy, right? So that you can just feel safe with people, right? Should anybody have to work that hard to feel loved and to feel that they have something of value as a human?
No.
Yeah, when you hear that, it kind of makes you realize how fucked up this industry is. Because think of the requirements that they are telling people. Think of the requirements of just going keto.
Oh my gosh.
And that's how hard you have to work to make your body healthy. That's a sign, right? If you have to work that hard, that's not good.
No,
right?
Not at all.
Especially when that type of work affects your emotional, psychological, and spiritual being. There's a cost, right? So you're going to be physically perceived, right? It's all in your mind, right? Do you see that now? That is totally in your mind. It's not even real. The perception of health is mentally created.
We talked about why I wouldn't go to the beach for 2 years or longer. Oh my gosh. All those diets. I can finally say I don't need them anymore. It feels really good to eat what I want to eat when I want.
So what has happened so you came to me and said, I need help with the binging, right?
And the anxiety around eating at night. And eating all these things that weren't allowed on every other diet. Oh, the popcorn I ate the other night. Oh, you should have only had 1 cup. You should have had no salt. You should have had nothing to eat with it. Oh, you might have to have apple cider vinegar to flush out the excess fluid.
Yeah, I want to make sure people know, too, all of the medical work that you've done as well. Have you been treated for leaky gut? Have you been treated for Hashimoto's? Thyroid dysfunction? Have you been treated for adrenal fatigue? Have you done all of the cleanses and everything you were supposed to do?
I've seen every naturopath in my town. I've gone to a couple different doctors. They've tested me for all sorts of thyroid. They've put me on all sorts of, oh, you need this pill. Oh, you need that. Oh, it's this health thing. Oh, this runs in your family. Well, I'm still the same as I was how many years ago when I first started all this.
Do you see that you come to them with that problem and you're coming to them saying this is a problem and they're not questioning your credibility, were they?
No.
They just go, yes, you do have that problem.
Oh, you read that on the internet? Yeah, you definitely have that.
We can treat that. It's all in your head and they're not questioning the credibility, right?
No, because they want to make money off of it.
No, when they believe it too. I don't even think that they're maliciously, right? I mean, were any of them really malicious in terms of them treating you?
Just one naturopath who said, of course, it's not just the adrenal fatigue, it's the thyroid, and it's this, and it's that. It was a couple more issues than...
Yeah, that practitioner may have been suffering from their own orthorexia, right? So they are super fear-focused. Like, you have leaky gut, you've got yeast, right? You have all that stuff, overgrowth. And you're addicted. Did you hear any of that? Like, it makes you have cravings. You can't stop.
Oh, it's the MSG in the food. Oh, it's all the GMOs. Oh, it's all this. It's all that.
And all of those come back to the fact that you're coming to them saying, I have a problem. And where your problems may be legitimate. I mean, you've had a ton of allergy tests, right? And you found out you're allergic to everything.
Yes. And now I'm eating it all except for the dairy, which obviously, that's lactose intolerance when it goes right through you, right? You can't stop that.
Yeah. Would you say a lot of these intolerances are a direct consequence from the binging and the dieting?
Yes.
Both combined.
There's a difference between eating a scoop of ice cream and eating a whole pail of ice cream.
Right. Isn't that amazing that you can say that right now? Because before, what you've been told is that a scoop of ice cream is so bad for you. That it's the same as the whole thing. But if you have a bite of gluten, you might as well eat the whole freaking bread. The loaf of bread, right? Like, it's all bad. Would you give a child a little bit of crack cocaine?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they were approaching it. with that type of zealotry, that is severe mental problems. And these are the people who are promoting it. So they're the experts, right? So when you take a step back from this, how many people do you think are out there in our culture? You're in Canada, I'm in the United States, we're pretty much the same. How many people are affected by this?
I'd say 75% of people, if not more. I think every person in my family, except for maybe one or two, don't have a weight problem, they just don't care.
Mm-hmm. And they eat what they want, and they don't over-emotionalize it either direction. They don't over-emotionalize the health of it or the lack of health of it, do they?
No, but every single one of my girlfriends is obsessed with thinness and fitness and who's wearing what and if it fits them and what size they are and what food they're eating and what exercises they've done. It's crazy.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
How long have you been dieting? How long have you been focused on your body image? Because
middle school.
Say it again?
Middle school.
Yeah. Prior to that, you just didn't think about it.
No.
Yeah. But in middle school, we were just talking about socially how we want to feel safe and we want to feel like we have something to give to the tribe. And if we don't really feel that what we have internally is sellable, right? We're going to say, I have this. You're going to grab something from social ideology, religion, money, clothes, cars, consumer stuff. But a common one is body image for a girl. That we believe that if we are sexually attractive, that's something that we can give our tribe. If I'm an athlete, that somehow gives me this power, this illusion that I have these gifts that will benefit the whole, right? So my ability to jump and play volleyball, does that really give the whole a benefit?
Who cares?
It doesn't. And that's the thing. It's an illusion, right? Like my ability to do this is like somehow special and can provide. It's a symbolic thing that we do as human beings, right? And also being thin and this concept of health. It isn't necessarily, Jesus Christ. I'm on Skype and my mother-in-law just kicked me off, so I gotta get back on. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, my mother-in-law called and kicked me off. Okay. Anyways, so a lot of people, especially in junior high, this is when we're kind of developing our sense of social autonomy. Like, who are we outside of our own family and parents, and what do we bring to our community and our groups and our little tribes, right? That's a very important developmental stage, junior high, grade 6, grade 7, and it can happen earlier depending on, your own personal experience with being rejected, abandoned, disproved, judged, isolated, or praised extensively, or if you've witnessed other people, those things can influence it earlier. But in general, most people go through these issues in junior high. So you clearly decided, well, I have thinness. Were you thin at the time or were you overweight?
No, I was average. I rode my bike a lot, so I had muscular legs, but there was definitely other girls who were tinier and smaller, and I'm not even tall myself, but I always compared myself to the smaller girls.
Yeah, because the belief system, do you see? Remember when I was like, the smaller you are, the better? It's very misogynistic and pedophilic in its orientation, right? Adolescent girls are who we as women are held to this even after having children.
Oh.
Right? So if you get pregnant right now and you were to go through pregnancy, imagine you just had that baby, how you would feel in terms of the pressure to try to get back to the body that you had pre-pregnancy. That is an actual means to prove that you have this special power that's praised, right? Because the body, you can make your body look adolescent for all that pedophilic crap that's out there, so that you can feel good about your community and what you bring to the table as a woman. You bring to the table this misogynistic, pedophilic body that everybody wants to fuck. Is that what you want to bring to the table?
No.
Even though it's praised by other women. And the medical community seems to think that it's awesome too. And they want to tell you to sacrifice food because it's for your own good. Right? Because of their own total and complete ignorance around how people get overweight. Right? And how obesity happens. Complete ignorance, right? So we had talked about this too, that if you're going to go, if this is to be real, you have to accept that people are going to stigmatize you, right? So if you gain 20, 30, 40 pounds, eating to hunger of, a couple beers with your dad, eating the meal your mom prepared instead of your pre-controlled little tiny bins of nothingness, right? If you eat in reality, that your body then is going to be in reality. It's actually going to be a real body with real DNA and real genetics that are running the show. Not this illusion that's in your brain, the fantasy that you're chasing, right? There's that, again, it's that mirage. I want the mirage. Well, what if you were to have to stay where you're at and survive where you're at?
I'm so much more happy where I am.
Well, it's so much easier, isn't it?
Do you know how relaxed I felt after having 2 beers and a stir fry, as opposed to controlling my intake of carbs and counting calories and putting it all in containers and measuring out the proper amount of fat? It's so much easier to just have the beer and have the stir fry and stop when you're full. And I went back for more.
Because you were hungrier. Was it because you were saying, screw it, I'm going to be fat anyways?
No. And I put ketchup on it. I love ketchup.
How'd that feel to not feel bad about that?
I did have a little anxiety at the beginning, and I'm like, you know what? I'm eating to hunger. I don't need to worry about how much sugar is in the ketchup. Who cares?
Well, the only way to get there is for you to be able to say, and if I end up gaining fat from this, so be it. If I can't have a little bit of ketchup, then really, do you want the thinness?
No.
If you can't have a beer with your dad, do you really want the thinness? Is the thinness and the mirage that you were chasing, is it really that amazing? And when you did get there, was there happiness in the fact that you got there, but now you have to be even more obsessive and compulsive and paranoid about trying not to regain, because if you regain, that means you really suck as a human being.
Oh, and guess what? I must really suck now because I gained it all back.
Yeah, which means you really suck. You are a shitty person. It was a fake. You couldn't handle it. You couldn't do it. So the actual symbolism of regain is horrible. It's way worse than someone who's just consistently overweight.
It is a roller coaster.
Oh, it is emotionally destructive, right? So there's no wonder you reached out to me, right?
It's draining.
It is a leech on the soul. So you're getting a flavor of this freedom, and it should feel like you can breathe. You should feel like there has been a huge weight lifted off your chest, off your shoulders, off of your spine, off of your brain, that there is space, breathing room, that you don't have any panic, the anxiety. Remember I said there's this vibration that you always felt before, that it should be gone. Like there's no pressure, so you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know the answers. You can just go with what comes up. You can be lenient. You can be just roll with it.
Yep.
That hierarchy of needs that we looked up, the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the top it says self, what was the word? Self-realization. That's what you're explaining right now, that you're having this self-realization. In other words, when those survival needs are met, you're capable of experiencing your intelligence at an intellectual level, right? Because you're not driven by these feelings of hide, fear, control, manage, perfectionism, failure. You don't have the pressure of trying to survive in this first world environment. It's almost like it's like you've come up above water and you're floating easily. So it's okay to get off the boat and jump in and do a little dive and come back on the boat and relax. Like, you don't have to swim all the time. That's how it kind of should feel. And that's how Maslow described it. When people have those lower hierarchy of needs met, food, shelter, water, the place to excrete, right? That you have a connection with your tribe. And for you, how did you connect with the tribe in terms of what we're doing, right? Because we took away the one thing you thought was the only way to connect, right? As a woman and as a, I don't know if you're married. Are you married?
Engaged.
Yeah, with your spouse, right? The connection sexually, the connection to body image and in just your own community, that we removed. That was the one thing that you thought was your access into being accepted, right? With your own friends who are crazy, like you were, like I was. So how are you connecting then? What are you using to feel connected as a human being, as a pack animal?
Communication.
What are you bringing to the table?
Myself.
That's really cool, isn't it? And how do you describe that? What is it that you're bringing?
I'm no longer bringing anxiety. I'm no longer bringing fear. I'm just going to hang out and socialize with my family and talk about normal stuff, not what diet I'm doing, whatever. I'm just going to hang out and have a beer and sit down and relax with them.
Yeah, you're bringing ease. You're bringing relaxation. Would you say you're bringing graciousness?
And humor, yeah.
Yeah, you're not confrontational. You're not bringing judgment anymore. Would you say that how you feel about total strangers has changed over the last few days?
Yes.
You feel more connected to strangers. Like, you just feel like they're worthy of love. Why put people down? They're doing the best they can. That's what I'm doing. We're all connected. We're all equal. That's an amazing feeling, isn't it? Because there's no pretentiousness in it. Like, you don't need to put yourself above others anymore. That is something that's also coming from those lower states of consciousness where your food, those lower states of survival that you were just in. That's part of like trying to survive in a world that wants you to survive through superiority. When you let go of that superiority, you're left with equality. And that also takes away fear of other people judging you, because you just don't give a shit anymore. Because if they don't like you, you're just being yourself, right? You're just being real and honest. Would you say it feels like you're being truthful now? That's awesome. Isn't that freeing? Because it's kind of a natural way for people to eliminate themselves. So if you have to work that hard, right, and suffer in an obsessive compulsive way to be healthy and to prove that you're fit and to prove that you are hardworking, do you really want to be in relationships that require that type of work?
No.
Right? That is abusiveness. Even with your own family, right? Imagine that your parents were that way. They clearly aren't.
No.
Imagine if your parents were that way, how you would feel coming out of the closet as a normal person to them.
I just feel like the weight would be lifted off the shoulders.
Yeah. It's kind of like coming out of the closet with any other social scourge, right? And having body fat and not obsessively, compulsively managing food is something to be judged right now in our culture, because there's a huge, huge shift in people with orthorexia and symptoms of orthorexia, which is health righteousness, which is how we prove our value, right? Don't you care about the health of Americans? Well, if you think about it, if you do care about the health of people, including your family, should you put them on a diet?
No. Because that is so much more draining on a person emotionally and mentally than it is to be sick.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Right? Like you're taking the humanness out of the body and making them just a body. So where's the human in there, right? Where's the reality of having a beer with your dad?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to enjoy peach cobbler when it's in season. Those are some of the pleasures of being out of survival. Like, we can enjoy these things, right? Why be stuck in a state of fight or flight when there's no need?
Or stuck in a state of fear.
Same thing. Totally. Fear when there's no need, right? And what are you afraid of, right? You're afraid of people judging you. So let's go through what it would feel like to be judged. Did we go through that? I think we did.
Yeah,
What's the initial feeling when you're going to be judged?
Guilt and shame.
You want to hide? Yeah, embarrassment. And how do they feel? Oh.
She gained.
Oh my God, we knew she couldn't do it. Look at her. Oh my God, I feel so bad for her. And then you the next feeling was embarrassment, which is a big one. So you're embarrassed. You come out of the closet. Yeah, I failed. Yes, I suck. Yes, the stigma's all around me, but it's not worth suffering anymore. I can't suffer anymore. So you're right. White flag, I failed. I failed at living in that permanent mental illness. I don't want to do it anymore. Right? Their perception is that you just couldn't handle it, that you're not strong enough, that you didn't try hard enough, that you didn't want it enough. And is that true? No, they're ignorant. They don't understand. And that's okay. But why let that type of ignorance be more credible than your personal experience?
Yeah.
Right? So coming out of the closet as a fat person or a fatter person or a person that's got enough fat that people think it needs to be fixed, you have to honor that based on your reality, the obsessive compulsiveness, the fact that you wanted it so bad that you caused mental problems, the fact that you studied about it, you've done everything you've done. It's not like you just didn't do the work.
I researched everything you can research.
Yeah. And you did it to a level of mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who stigmatizes you is lazy, didn't want it enough, right? You kind of just have to let them do that. Because is there any way for you, and should you have to reason with someone that is that ignorant?
No.
Yeah. So you just got to say, you're wrong. Oh, yeah, I'm just such a loser. Okay, bye now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need to...
They'll eliminate themselves. Right?
Well, they will, yeah.
And you don't need to believe it either. And isn't that the most powerful part? If you are done and you're allowing the body to now become whatever it's going to be because you don't want to manage it anymore, you have to be willing to be seen as a failure by other people. And that initial coming out with the body that it is and what it's going to look like feels somewhat scary, frightening, exposing, vulnerable. Then there's embarrassment around the fact that it is a visible sign of failure. It's a visible sign that people stigmatize, and you have to go through it anyways and not defend yourself, right? And not have these reasons and excuses for why. If you're doing that against the embarrassment, are you really recovering?
No.
Because you're negotiating with the belief system that you don't want to honor anymore. So if you don't want to honor this belief system of thin supremacy and that you have to do, no matter what means you have to be thin, if you don't want to honor that anymore, then you really should stop arguing with it and just say, yeah, you're right, I failed. Look at me, I'm a piece of shit. Because you are in that system. Because thin is the only possible answer. Thinner is always better, no matter what the ramifications are. So any ounce of retreating from that is a failure, no matter how much you suffered. Because in the end, even if you said I have an obsessive compulsive eating disorder, I've abused diuretics, I've binged, purged, I've exercised obsessively, I can't function in reality, I've had to do things that are out of this world, no one should have to do it, they're going to go, well, you didn't do it hard enough.
Yeah.
Because
didn't try.
yes, no matter how much you've suffered, there's someone listening to this video right now going, oh, well, she didn't do the epi-paleo. She didn't do CrossFit while she was doing paleo. Oh, she might have not have been doing cold therapy while she was doing sun therapy, while she wasn't doing this therapy. Just that extra more might have made it. You might have hit that mirage.
Maybe she's not hydrated.
Right?
Yeah.
You were acidic.
Yeah, you're holding on to water.
That's what it is. We need to work on that today. Focus. And so you focus on this, and guess what else you don't get to focus on? Everything. Everything gets eliminated from focus. Your parents, your life, your fun, your freedom, nature, going to the beach. You don't get to focus on anything except for the fantasy that is a mirage, because it's not even real. Because once you get there, you have to keep on going. So you're just chasing it permanently. It's like in that cage that I talk about. So if you were to explain what you just experienced to the listener, who was you 2 years ago, what would you say?
You don't have to control everything all the time. Once you let it go, it's such a relief.
Let what go? What are you letting go?
I'm letting go the fear of gaining. I'm letting go everybody else judging me. I'm letting go that I'm ever going to be 115 pounds again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm letting...
The fantasy you have to let go, that's the sadness.
Mm-hmm. And letting go of something that's been consuming so much of my time and thoughts. It's actually really hard. What am I going to think about?
Isn't that the coolest thing?
What am I going to control?
You get to start over. You get to figure that out. Isn't that the coolest part? And it doesn't have to be perfect. It should feel somewhat juvenile. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a little kid. I don't even know what I like. Because I've been fixating on making sure my body was perfect before I learned what I liked. Mm-hmm. And whatever I liked had to support this obsessive compulsiveness. So it's always in fitness. Somewhere in fitness and nutrition. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
Now I can go for a walk and not count my steps and put on the monitor to monitor my heart rate. Who cares?
You don't have to wear your Fitbit. What? How are you going to control and know what's going on?
Mm-hmm. How are you going to accomplish your goals?
Because don't we all need goals to make ourselves better? Mm-hmm. And don't we need to use the goals that society has programmed that are important for us so that we can feel important to society?
Shouldn't that skinny body be on your vision board?
It's so sad. You gave all that up. And it is sad, right? The first step of this is like, there is loss. It feels sad. Because there is this fantasy that you've gotten high. Thinking about, reaching, wanting, obsessing over, dedicating your entire brain to. And it's sad to say that it's not going to happen. Even though you could, it might. The next cleanse that comes out. Because you know there's going to be more cleanses. There's going to be more detoxes. There's going to be the next best thing. Mm-hmm. Intermittent paleo fasting plus CrossFit. That's what you got to do to maintain. You need to monitor your weight every day. You got to do it, right? Mm-hmm. All those things you're letting go, and the thing is you have to go the opposite direction you've been going. Mm-hmm. It's like going into what you've been running away from. You've been running away from being fat. And guess what you had to do to get this freedom?
Control everything.
Well, what did you have to do? Which direction did you have to go? You've been running away from being fat, running towards being thin. And what direction did I turn you?
The other way.
You are going to be fat. We're going into fatness. We're going into failure, loss, destruction, all that bag of pain that you've been trying to avoid, destroy, fight, flight, hide, push, everything and anything, monitor. you went into those and you decided that those emotions ultimately are better than the feelings of isolation, shame, guilt, anxiety, panic, paranoia. Those emotions are worse. So you decided to go the other direction, away from the emotions that you thought you couldn't handle, right? In a body that is not what people want, that you couldn't handle judgment. You couldn't handle embarrassment. You couldn't handle what else?
Oh, everything. There's so much to think about.
Yeah. So now, how do you feel about embarrassment? Is that something that you think you can?
I think I can work through it. I'm already letting it go. I'm already not caring. I already want to go to the beach, and I haven't gone in years.
Yeah. And to enjoy the beach, not to enjoy your little body.
Exactly. I want to take my dogs.
Oh, that's so exciting. So you actually accepted that you would rather gain weight, be fatter for the rest of your life. How fat would you be okay getting? What if you eat to hunger and you give yourself the beer, you give yourself the pasta, you give yourself these foods that you're inflamed by, you do this on a daily basis for years? How fat do you think you'll get? And when do you say, I'd rather go back into shame, isolation, control, limitations, and all of that crap that you just left? What would it take?
Probably, well, my heaviest I ever was 165.
Mm-hmm.
For such a short person, it was pretty heavy, and I'd be willing to go back to that and more.
And more. Isn't that amazing?
Just to not have the pressure anymore.
How does that feel for you to feel that way? That it's not me saying that's what you have to do, that you actually feel that way. How does that feel?
Different. Really different.
Does it feel in any way very gracious, like very humbling?
Humbling.
And very loving. You should feel like for the first time you're loving yourself.
Mm-hmm. And eating what I want, doing what I want. What makes you happy?
Does it feel entitled? Or does it feel gracious? I mean, there's a difference between I'm going to eat what I want, right? That's a fight.
No. Definitely more humble and loving.
How's it going to feel going clothes shopping for clothes that are bigger and bigger sizes than you've ever shopped for?
I'm already wearing my bigger sizes, so it's actually okay. I'm finding outfits that I like that are in bigger sizes, but I like the style better.
Are you more comfortable? You should feel comfortable. Does it feel okay not wearing your skinny clothes, your anorexia clothes, your obsessive clothes, your intermittent fasting clothes, your keto clothes, your HCG clothes, your, all those things that take insane abusiveness emotionally to manage your weight, right? Mm-hmm. How does it feel to not be wearing those?
I miss some of them because they were my favorite clothes, but I've bought more and I like the new ones better. Almost.
Yeah. I think shopping is going to be something that will be a different experience for you, too. If you ever shop for clothes anymore. Because before, I bet you were always trying to find clothes that were flattering, that would make you look smaller, right? That accentuate, certain areas, or tries to make certain areas smaller. Whereas when you shop again, it's going to be what's comfortable and what sings to me. Like a little kid, like a girl wanting to buy something with flowers and sparkles and something that they don't care what anybody thinks. It's like part of them. It's part of how they want to express themselves versus how they want to express their social conditioning. That's an important thing to think about. Were you expressing yourself, or were you expressing social programming? And expressing that you are programmed and you're successfully programming yourself.
Before, it was whatever was in style, and now the other day I wore a nice, loose, flowy shirt that was comfortable. I wore flare pants that I love, that probably weren't what everybody else liked, but I liked them and I felt comfortable in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and if someone is going to judge you and stigmatize you as less than, is that someone you want to attract to you?
Absolutely not.
No. Totally. Other people can do that if that's what they want to do, right? I have friends that are that way. I don't care. Whatever makes you happy, go for it. I have friends that are dieting right now. I have friends that are totally in crazy train. I love them. I let them do it. This isn't, they need to figure it out on their own, right? So if they say, oh, I'm going on a cleanse, I'll be like, you go, girl. Let me know when you want a cookie.
Yeah.
But I'll support you. I'll make the gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free. I'm going to try to do everything I can to support what you're trying to do. And ultimately, guess what they're going to find sooner than later? Misery. And they'll figure it out on their own. I don't need to tell them, make them feel bad, be anti that, right? But I certainly support that they do what, So that's the other part of this too, is you are surrounded by people who are in that, and you can have compassion for the fact that they have no idea there's a different place to live, right? You're in a new place. It should feel new.
You know what? One of my friends just posted on Instagram, 3.5-kilometer run at lunch. It's not much, but it's the most I've run in a long time. Let's just say I have to really buckle down on the training and the diet if I have any hope in finishing in an okay time. That just makes me feel sad.
I know, but you know what you should say? You go, girl.
Mm-hmm.
She'll figure it out. I mean, it goes around in circles. As you know, you've had years and years of circles, right? Back and forth. It's a mirage. You're chasing a mirage. The thing is this, that fantasy, if someone thinks it's real and it's accomplishable, what the hell is that? Accomplishable.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to keep on trying. And so did you. You and I talked 2 years ago. It wasn't good timing. You thought the fantasy was real. You thought the fantasy was real 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. And then I contacted you again.
Well, for some reason, you might have been miserable. You must have started to get really miserable. So this is what it takes, right? Think about what it took for you to finally open yourself up to talking to me. I'm not the nicest. I don't put things super pleasingly, right? I'm not the most soft when it comes to telling you where the problem is. I'm not an enabler, am I? No. So you must have been ready for change, right? Ready for, I can't do this anymore. So as much as it would have been really easy for you to pay that trainer, that was the easy route, right? Don't you agree? To people who don't get it, they're going to go, what? That is so hard. You have to dedicate yourself. You have to be focused. That's easy. Doing what you just did, that's hard. Willing to be judged, shamed, abandoned, rejected, disapproved of, that's not easy.
Yeah, even to be judged by you that it took 2 years for me to reach back out.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. See, yeah, that's not how I am. I'm like, I understand the process, and not everybody who comes to me is ready. They want the freedom, and they want the thinness. How's that? That doesn't work out.
No.
Because to get the freedom, you have to break out of the thinness. Yeah, you have to go the opposite direction. You have to go into the fatness and go into it as if it's real and it's going to happen. So, anyways, thanks for letting me share this.
Oh, no problem.
Do you have anything you want to say to the listener?
It's so much better on the other side.
For real.
Yeah.
Can I get an amen? Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.